Good morning. Let me start by extending my condolences to the family of the deceased from this officer-involved shooting early this morning. No matter the circumstances, any loss of life is tragic, and many prayers are with the deceased and his loved ones. I also want to extend my prayers for the other shooting victims from last evening, including the mass shooting in Rhode Island. As to the circumstances of what occurred with the officer-involved shooting, I've spoken with the Attorney General and also with Chief Harriet Sullivan and told her that RPD will fully comply with her investigation. And we agree that the body-worn camera footage from this incident must be released as soon as possible. To that end, I have directed Chief Harriet Sullivan to ensure the video is being redacted and is released. She has assured me that RPD is in the process of doing so. In addition, RPD is gathering statements and information from witnesses on the scene and will share that information with the community as well. Again, we will comply fully with the Attorney General's investigation, as this investigation is now under her purview, and we will determine and provide all the facts regarding what happened. At this time, RPD and the AG's office are working diligently to give the community the information that they're seeking, and I assure you that we will continue to demand the answers that we all deserve. I also know that all of us are tired and weary from the tragedies we have had to endure, but I ask that we all continue to act with dignity, and together we will persevere and create the change we all desire, and know that our community mourns together. Because by charter, we have to submit our budget to City Council. Today, we have to proceed with our budget announcements. We recognize the tragedies that have happened in our community, but we also have to continue with the business of our taxpayers. And that is why we're here this morning. We stand here today at a moment very different than a year ago. Just yesterday, I stood with leaders of the community and organizations and thanked them for their leadership. And more importantly, we thanked our employees and their employees for their efforts to see us through the pandemic. Because of their efforts, we protected our circles and our entire city. We ensured that thousands of our neighbors could pay their rent and that hundreds of businesses could stay open and their employees could stay working, and provided millions of meals to our children, families, and seniors. We ensured that our students and families had the lifeline of access to the internet so they could continue to learn and be connected. We sent life-saving masks to every home and thousands of businesses throughout our city. We maintained our residents' access to vital city services without interruption or disruption. Doing this ensured that we continued to protect our circles and our community, and it laid the foundation for equitable recovery to come back stronger than ever before. And now, we are not looking back. I'm proud that every one of our construction projects this year were on time and on budget. We finished the International Plaza at La Marqueta, the first phase of the Rock Skate Park, continued renovating our Blue Cross Arena at the War Memorial, and started the Riverwalk project in Coral Hill and the reconstruction of East Main Street. And yes, we will be ready to play and gather at the 5 in just a couple short weeks. So I ask you to please stay off the grass for a little bit longer. And as much as our Environmental Services Commissioner, Norm Jones, would like for me to go on about all the things that his department, in conjunction with our Office of Neighborhood and Business Development, completed, I will simply say that we can point to every corner of our city and see the progress and projects that continue despite the hardships that we faced. And I'm grateful to all of our city employees, all of them, who worked very, very hard during the pandemic and showed up for our community. They continue to get the job done in every department. We achieved all of this and more over the past year while dealing head-on with the financial realities that the pandemic presented. We knew that this was going to be a tough budget year, so we did everything possible to ensure that we were able to come out of this pandemic together. So we reduced city spending, froze salaries, furloughed employees, and deferred projects. These were all necessary decisions to protect our taxpayers and our businesses. The results show these tough choices were not in vain. All of these efforts are allowing us to overcome COVID and show that city government works when you have leadership that makes the tough decisions and work in partnership with the community to face any challenge that may arise. And today, while COVID is not over, we stand at a pivotal moment in our community. We can look forward to the future, clear-eyed and determined, and move full speed ahead to build upon our past successes and to build a brighter future with more jobs, safer, more vibrant neighborhoods, and greater educational opportunities. And by doing so, we will achieve equity and fairness for everyone. My proposed budget continues to invest in these goals by protecting our taxpayers. The total budget is $560.8 million, and our property tax levy will remain at $187.6 million, meaning we are not asking our taxpayers to pay one more penny to make all of the needed investments we will share today. Not only are we holding taxes flat, this budget contains no fee increases for water, refuge, or parking, and it should be noted the average homeowner will see a decrease in property taxes of about $36.05, and the average business or commercial property owner will see a tax bill lower than in 2019. Beyond the numbers, the city budget is how we demonstrate our priorities and put our beliefs into practice. And this year, we heard our community and understand that it's asking us to change how we do business. And that starts with public safety. I want a police department that is truly focused on keeping our city safe, not one whose mission is divided by doing work better done by others. That's why this budget invests our resources differently so RPD can be focused on reducing crime and violence, the job our community wants and needs them to do. Over this past year and in this budget, we are refocusing the role of RPD while expanding the role of the Department of Recreation and Human Services in assisting residents in need. These investments are intentional and take a holistic approach to addressing the well-being and safety of our community. This year's budget reflects our continued commitment to this change. Therefore, the RPD budget will decline by nearly $4.5 million, or 4.7%. These dollars will be reinvested elsewhere in this budget to address some of the root causes of crime and other focus that are outside of RPD's purview. This will allow the Rochester Police Department to refocus on its core duty to fight crime. RPD will still have 726 sworn officers. However, we will step up other efforts, including our person in crisis teams, our Office of Neighborhood Safety, and they will continue to make changes in public safety across our city. Since Interim Police Chief Cynthia Harriet Sullivan took office, she has worked diligently to address the culture of department and create the foundation for change. Just this week, she began a new and innovative training program launched by former Attorney General Eric Holder. I'm grateful to her and to all of the men and women of the department who continue to serve honorably during these challenging times. To further ensure that our police department and other first responders are accountable to the people they serve, this budget includes the establishment of a public safety commissioner. This commissioner will be a civilian appointed by my office and confirmed by City Council, to whom our police, fire, and 911 departments will report to. The Public Safety Commissioner will have one primary goal: to ensure that we truly protect and serve the people of Rochester. This is the next logical step in our shared work to ensure accountability. As for accountability, since the idea was first raised, I have been and always will be a strong supporter of the Police Accountability Board. And I believe the PAB, coupled with the Public Safety Commissioner, can work hand in glove to bring the highest level of accountability to the police department and to restore the public's confidence. To accomplish this, I am fully funding the PAB in this budget. We will invest $5 million in funding to finally get our PAB off the ground. This historic investment will more than triple the PAB's budget and allow this agency to begin its very important work. We also believe in an innovative operational structure can allow the PAB to fully be staffed with over 50 employees and the significant level of autonomy and flexibility the board wants to achieve. It is the administration's job to provide the funding. It is City Council's job to provide the structure and the oversight of the PAB. My proposed budget provides the funding necessary for the Police Accountability Board to fully begin its critical work of hearing cases and investigating the public concerns regarding our police department. Since this board falls under the purview of City Council, President Scott and her colleagues will work with the PAB to decide how it will function and conduct its critical work to ensure that accountability is given to our citizens. My office is committed to assisting City Council and the PAB so that they can move forward. To further ensure the safety of our residents, this budget also contains funding for an ambulance service study. The goal of the study is simple: to make sure that anyone in need of help during an emergency gets that help as quickly and efficiently as possible. I want to thank our Fire Chief, Felipe Hernandez, for leading this important effort. But these changes to how we protect our community are only half of the equation. To truly keep our community safe, we must also invest in our people and provide opportunities that address the historic injustices that have existed in our city. And that starts with our new budget equity tool. Each department was required to use this tool to focus their requests on how we overcome structural inequality in our government. And from that lens, we have decided to spend differently. Our Department of Recreation and Human Services will be at the center of this change. We will continue to expand our Person in Crisis team, or PIC teams, to provide a true compassionate response for people experiencing mental health and addiction-related challenges in our community. I want to take a moment to thank the many of you in the media who have had the chance to see the work of our PIC teams and how they've helped the vulnerable residents of our community. And the expansion of the PIC team is just part of our efforts. We will also expand our Victims Assistance Unit to help those who have suffered from crime recover and rebuild their lives. I want to thank our Commissioner of the Department of Recreation and Human Services, Dr. Danielle Lyman-Torres, for her leadership during this time of transition. As I promised in my ERA agenda, we will be creating an Office of Neighborhood Safety to finally bring together and empower our community to design and implement a violence reduction strategy. By doing so, we will truly address issues and prevent disputes in our neighborhoods. We will also provide alternatives to our residents who believe today that they don't have better choices or true opportunities. Our Peacemaker Fellowship will empower these individuals to not just make change in their lives, but throughout our community. Fellow cities that have developed similar programs have seen a dramatic drop in the amount of homicides and gun violence in their communities. We can and we must achieve the same success in Rochester. We've done it before and we will do it again. These investments in expanding human services to our residents reflect my commitment, our commitment to address the root causes of violence, the systematic inequities that have plagued our city from its inception. One of the most harmful parts of this legacy of inequality is in housing. In my ERA agenda, I detailed the history and the impacts of redlining that remain with us today. Now it's time to put housing first by taking the neighborhoods that suffered the most under these policies, redlining policies, and start greenlining them with our Buy the Block initiative. The proposed budget will allow our Office of Neighborhood and Business Development to bring together various funding streams to target our home ownership and home improvement programs. In these now green light areas, we will help city residents buy the block and begin the process of creating generational wealth. And to ensure we address the other inequities that the past year have laid to bear, I am committing $1 million to start to implement the recommendations of the Race Commission. I want to thank Commission chairs, former Mayor Bill Johnson, Arlene Santiago, and Dr. Mohammed Shafiq, and all of the committee members for their efforts. I agree that it's no time for excuses and that it is time for action. And these dollars will be used to start the implementation of the Race Commission's recommendation. It will ensure that the city start to deliver on those recommendations. The best way that we can lift people up is with a good job, and that has the potential to lead to a great career. And that's why this budget also expands funding for our job training efforts like ReJob and YAMTEP. We know these programs work. Hundreds of our residents are employed today after seizing these opportunities. We also know that the dignity that comes from working is sometimes out of reach for our most challenged neighbors. This budget also creates a day labor demonstration pilot program for those who currently panhandle and are seeking employment to help us clean and beautify our neighborhoods. And we know this works because our sister city in Syracuse has already implemented a program like this. My hope is that this program will allow our neighbors to create connections and eventually access the services they need to transition to meaningful employment. My grandmother always told me to never disrespect a homeless person, but to instead recognize that they were someone's child and to treat them with the dignity and respect they deserve. I am eternally grateful to my budget director, Chris Wagner, and his team for their hard work during this difficult and truly challenging and unique budget year. Chris and his team has prepared this budget without the understanding of how the state budget and the American Rescue Plan would affect our operations. We just learned 2 days ago how we could use the money from the federal government to fund the work we want to do on behalf of our community. And the good news is we have not used any of the American Rescue dollars to balance this year's budget. We now have an opportunity to reach out to you, our residents, to discuss how we can invest even more to recover stronger than before. And we will involve all of our city and public forums in a variety of efforts to help us create that plan. I've heard many wonderful ideas that our community has shared, from creating the Maplewood Nature Park to establishing grocery stores to eliminating lead service water lines to protect our children. And I can share in the community's enthusiasm for these great ideas. And I know you have many more. And we definitely want to hear from you. Together, we will make the most of this unique opportunity to create real and sustainable change. I also want to note that these dollars are a one-time investment. They are not reoccurring. So we have to be deliberate and strategic about what we spend these dollars on. So let me be clear. This budget will protect our taxpayers and build upon our success, overcoming the pandemic to create more jobs, safer, more vibrant neighborhoods, and greater educational opportunities. It continues our work to create equity and fairness for all. It keeps our tax levy flat. It reduces property taxes for homeowners and keeps taxes for businesses and commercial property owners lower than they were in 2019. It sharpens the Rochester Police Department's focus on fighting crime and violence while reducing its budget by $4.5 million. And this budget also makes the necessary and critical investments to give all of our residents a fighting chance at life. It funds the creation of a civilian public safety commissioner and fully funds the Police Accountability Board. It includes a budget equity tool to ensure fairness and expands our person in crisis team, our victims assistance unit, and creates an Office of Neighborhood Safety. Create more opportunities for home ownership by greenlighting our neighborhoods with our new Buy the Block initiative, and provides the Race Commission with an historic initial investment to get them started. It provides job training, dignity, and hope to those living on our streets. And in total, this is truly a historic budget that will deliver meaningful change throughout our city. I am grateful for our entire senior management team, to all of our employees for their efforts and their leadership to make all of this possible. By working as a team, by working together, by not giving up, we got it done for the residents of Rochester. I again want to extend my deepest thanks to our budget director, Chris Wagner, and his team for their hard work, because they did an exceptional job under a lot of pressure to deliver a budget that every citizen of our community can be proud of. And I want to invite him to share the additional details about our budget. Let's please welcome our budget director, Chris Wagner.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, all. Mayor, I want to thank you, the Deputy Mayor, and the entire senior management team for their efforts over the past year and in informing this budget. And I really want to acknowledge my team and thank them for their great work, starting with Deputy Director Suzanne Warren, Sarah Boyce, Emily Lohner, Christina Helgenthaler, Joe Mistico, Sarah Ruckberg, and Josephus Tisdale. I also want to thank Elisa Sobrani in the print shop for taking such good care of budget and getting this printed, because she's been here a lot of late nights recently. In terms of how we closed the gap for this budget, we started with an estimated $65.2 million gap, which we later adjusted downward slightly to $63.4 million. We closed the gap and funded increased investments through a series of revenue enhancements and expense adjustments. But there were three primary drivers: reductions to planned cash capital spending of about $36.8 million, use of fund balance in tax-supported funds of $23.17 million, and recognition of increased sales tax revenue of $23.17 million. Additional investments include $2.15 million in Recreation and Human Services for Crisis Intervention Services and the Office of Neighborhood Safety, adding $1 million for implementation of Race Commission recommendations, an additional $4.6 million, as the Mayor mentioned, in funding PAB. I realize I misspoke on something. In terms of sales tax collections, our increased sales tax collections were about just under $12 million. The budget proposes the use of $20.8 million in fund balance in the general fund. As of the end of last fiscal year, our general fund balance was just over $70 million. We budgeted to use $14.7 million in the current year. However, as the Mayor mentioned, because of the efforts that we made in terms of our curtailing expenses, as well as strong sales tax collections and repayment of the state aid that was withheld last year, we expect to replenish what we lost in fund balance last year and what we used this year. That created a lot of flexibility for us, or additional flexibility for us in forming this budget. Furthermore, I expect that the revenue recovery provisions in the American Rescue Plan may mitigate some of what we plan to use in the 21-22 budget. And if I could, I'll take a quick minute to talk about the American Rescue Plan funds. As the Mayor mentioned, guidance came out earlier this week that we are still reviewing. So with the exception of a few capital projects, those funds are not reflected here. We intend to try to maximize the revenue recovery allowed for the plan, as well as make strategic investments to make transformative change in Rochester. This is, as the mayor said, a one-time infusion of funds. We are assessing eligibility of investments for funding such things as the Nature Center, as the mayor mentioned, grocery stores, opportunities for affordable housing, new play apparatus, and eliminating lead services in the water system. We are developing a survey for community input that will be available shortly, and we will conduct a community forum on the topic. This budget is up a net 14 full-time positions year over year, including a coordinator of neighborhood safety and a coordinator of emergency response in the Department of Recreation and Human Services, an early learning specialist in the library for the Raising a Reader program, and a position in HR to support equity initiatives. It's also up 3 paralegal positions in the law department to support transfer of the FOIL function. Despite the addition of positions, the budget does result in potential layoffs of 1 full-time position and 3 part-time positions. As the mayor mentioned, this budget proposes no increase in property tax and no increase to major user fees for local works, water, or refuse. The net effect of the state-mandated tax shift and keeping the levy warrant.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you again for your leadership and your support, the people of Rochester and your team for all their hard work on this year's budget.